Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Satyari Satarine Yascha Kripa Sindhuveva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Prabhupada ki jai. I was going to read something. It's actually going to read a chapter from my book. Before I begin, I wanted to ask if anyone had any questions from what we've been discussing. Does anyone remember what we've been discussing? Agreed. Because we didn't know, we agreed. But now we know what Maya is. So if we're in Maya, we know we're agreeing to be in Maya. Right? We were talking about self-deception, right? Sometimes self-deception is a survival mechanism because the truth is painful. And denial allows us to cope, especially denial about our bad qualities. That way we can have a conception of ourselves that gives us some confidence, some satisfaction, and facing ourselves, what we're really like, could be painful or difficult. What's interesting about this is that we have a translator in Russian. She's late. You can do it? You have the transmitter? You want to do? Better than silence. You want to do? She can do. What's the problem? You want to sit? You can sit here. It's fine. So, one of the examples that we see in the pure devotees is that they're never hiding their faults. Actually, they're very forthcoming, and they write songs about how bad they are for the whole world to see. Isn't that interesting? Don't you find that interesting? Like, we don't want the whole world to see what's wrong with us, right? We want the whole world to think we're good, we're nice, we're kind, and so forth. And the pure devotees very forthcoming about revealing their defects. Can we move up? Because you come right up here. I won't kick you. Good. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today, one of my godbrothers was telling us a story. And devotees were glorifying Prabhupada as a... And Prabhupada said, I'm not even a Vaishnava, I'm trying to be a Vaishnava. Now, sometimes when we say something like that, we may not mean it. Or we may say it so we look humble. Because if I say I'm not a Vaishnava, then you'll think I'm humble. And that way I get your honor. So it's a complete paradox. But Prabhupada he's the spiritual master. He's everyone's spiritual master. And he's telling his disciples, I'm not even a Vaishnava. Isn't that interesting? He's spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, and he's telling the world, I have no qualifications. If you were the one who did it, no one did it in the history of the world, how would you feel? Be honest, how would you feel?
Great.
More than great. You would feel that you're better than everybody. Admit it. Yes? Of course. Nobody did it. I did it. That means I'm better than all of you. For sure we'd feel like that. We would struggle not to feel like that. We would tell ourselves, no, it's Krishna's mercy, I shouldn't feel that way. But we'd feel that way. And so Prabhupada does it, and he thinks, I have no qualification to do this, I just follow the order of my guru, and we were successful. So don't you find that interesting? How we're a little bit protective of our image, and the pure devotees have no image to protect at all. They're not trying to defend their egos, or project a persona or an image or brand themselves. But instead, they're very open about their faults. Right? Think about it, it's a good example. Hare. What else do we talk about? Who remembers?
How to understand when we just push it too much to advance, and that becomes counteracted.
How to know what's real for us? Yeah. You know why it's a problem to know what's real? Because knowing what's real can be depressing. Like, let's say you want to be a millionaire, and you're really money, you're not good with business, you're a high school dropout, and someone says, you know, forget trying to be a millionaire, you'll never be a millionaire. That's depressing, because that's what you want. You know? So, confronting the reality of here is the standard and here is where I'm at is sometimes difficult. Difficult to accept, even though you have no choice but to accept it because it's a reality. But sometimes we fight the reality because the reality is hard to accept. Right? We see somebody's better than us, and Prabhupada said, not because you want to be honored, but because you want to please Krishna. But for us, so Shyam Gopal, he's better than I am. And that makes me uncomfortable because I have to deal with the reality of that I'm not like him, that I'm like myself. And a lot of us don't like ourselves because we like other people better than we like ourselves. Our culture evaluates us very much externally. So when we join ISKCON, then we think, well, if I have to be somebody, then I'll need some position. Maybe I should stay brahmachari because it's more glorious. Once I put on white, everyone's going to go, ooh, too bad, Prabhu. I thought you were better than that. Many men took sannyas because it gave them some prestige. So, the reality is the reality, and to not accept it is not helpful. And if we can't accept the reality, then it's very difficult to practice humility, because that's what humility means. Yes? Maybe Shyam Gopal is destined to be famous. And whatever he does, he puts it on YouTube. And like in 3 days, there's like 500,000 hits. Right? And whatever I put on YouTube, in 3 days, there's 50 hits. And I'm thinking, but what I said is so much better than what he said. But the reality is, people like him better than they like me. And I can't change that reality. I have to accept it. It's just how it is. Right? I can make up stories, how much better I am, and no one appreciates me. Like when there's a joke about Trump when he had bad ratings. They said, Mr. Trump, you have like the lowest ratings of any president. He said, that means the American people have bad taste. That definitely shows American people have bad taste because they don't like me. So reality is what it is. And so we accept that reality. We had done this exercise last week, which is a little uncomfortable for some people, and some people would think it's not a very Krishna conscious thing to do, but I'll tell you what we did and I'll tell you why we did it. I asked all the devotees to tell the person next to them what they liked about themselves. So immediately there was reluctance. Why would I do that? I'm supposed to be humble. I'm going to tell you, I'm so smart, and I like the fact that I can cook, and I know how to dance, and I can build things, and sound so proud. But we were doing it as an exercise, not in pride, but in appreciation of what Krishna has given you. Right? Now, I could have asked them to say, tell me what you're not. Okay, turn to the person next to you and tell them what you're not. And after doing that exercise, what would be the benefit? Other than you would just be depressed. But there would be no benefit. But by saying what you are, then you realize, yeah, I'm good at this. And then you think, that's a gift Krishna has given me. Not that I should be proud, but I should acknowledge that I have something and I can use it. And a lot of devotees say, but if I do that, wouldn't I become proud? And the answer is, no, unless you want to be proud. Anything will make you proud. Right? Isn't it? Like, if you want to be proud, you don't need much, you know. You just need a new kurta or a new sari. That's all you need. And you'll walk around. Look at me. No one has a court that's this nice. How nicely it's ironed. But I should unzip my sweater so you can see it. How nice that is. So that's why Prabhupada said a pauper is proud of his penny. If there's pride, anything will make you proud. And if there's humility, nothing will make you proud, even though you have every right to be proud. And if you want to be proud, everything will make you proud, even though you have no right. Isn't it? So, to accept is to appreciate what Krishna has given us and to know what we can use humbly in his service. That's all. Yes? So I have some bad news for you. No matter how good you get at anything, there's always going to be somebody better than you. So, you can accept it now or you can fight it your whole life. Now, if you're Krishna conscious and you find a devotee who's better at something than you will be happy. Because that devotee is pleasing Krishna and that devotee is pleasing Prabhupada. And isn't it strange? If some devotee is doing some amazing service for Prabhupada and it's something you want to do, but they're doing it better and you don't like it, but they're pleasing Prabhupada, there's something like really twisted about that, isn't it? If someone's doing something to please Prabhupada and you don't like that because it brushes your ego, then you need to think about that, right? And if somebody's doing something better than you and you're happy, even though you've tried to do it and they're doing it better and you're happy, that's fantastic. You know what that means? That means you've accepted yourself as you are and you can be happy when other people are successful. And it also means if you can't be happy when another person's successful, it probably means you're a pretty unhappy person. Isn't it? And when they're successful, if you can't be happy with their success, what do you do when they're successful? You criticize them. Right? Isn't it? Have you ever done that? And Prabhupada, he gives that example. I don't know if you heard this example. There's a group of friends, and one of the friends became a high court judge. And one of the friends was envious because he thought he wasn't very smart. So when he was told he became a high court judge, he said, "No way, it's not possible, he's not qualified." He said, "Yeah, he became a high court judge." And he was so envious. He said, "Well, if he's a high court judge, they must not be paying him." And he could not acknowledge it. If we're envious, we'll be very miserable. And envy is in itself a punishment for not being able to be happy about the successful service of another devotee. You just punish yourself, isn't it? But it should be a sign to you you're not accepting yourself. You're not appreciating what you have, the gifts you have. I just got this letter from a godbrother who's extremely talented, extremely successful. And he wrote me a letter and he was saying, "I appreciate what you're doing." So it's like, it just shows his character. Like he doesn't have to outdo everybody. And that is what Prabhupada called the Vaikuntha spirit. And the material world spirit is, I don't like it when you're successful, even if you're pleasing Prabhupada. Because I want to be more successful than you. Now, it gets even more interesting. Because Prabhupada said, you cannot just try to be successful and be successful. You have to please Krishna, and if he wants you to be successful, he'll make you successful. Isn't that interesting? Like, we're trying to be successful. Have you ever not tried to be successful and things just happened? And vice versa? Tried really, really hard and this is going to be the best thing that ever happened, and it just goes doo. I had this experience. This little japa affirmations book, somebody wanted to do it for me. I said, okay. And they said, well, we don't just want the affirmations, we want explanations. So I sat down and explained everything, and then it was edited. And we couldn't print enough books. Of course they're cheap, it's only 90 rupees, but it's just it was not my intention to ever even do that book. So we've printed now 8,000, and who knows, it's not a lot, but for a devotee book, it's decent. And we'll probably just keep printing, keep selling. So I had no intention of doing that. But Krishna somehow wanted it, and so something. One publisher told me, if you're a devotee, I said, how many books should I publish? He said, 1,000. If you're a devotee, 1,000 is good. So that's an interesting concept. If you please Krishna, you'll be successful. You try to be successful. Maybe you won't be, unless Krishna's pleased. Okay, I have a question for you. Can you be happy about the success of other devotees? Okay, you say yes. Most of you say yes. Can you be happy about the success of a devotee you don't like? Can you be happy about a devotee who's successful and whatever he's doing, you can do much better? You don't have to answer. You can just laugh, and that means yes.
So that kind of situation, the last two that you mentioned, can we practice appreciation even if we don't genuinely believe at the beginning of it? Does that work?
Yeah, it does. She's asking, well, if that situation is there where I'm feeling this envy or jealousy, or I'm just not happy, can I practice appreciation? And will it help me? Yeah, it will help me. And the interesting thing is, of course, some people will say, oh, but, if it's not real, then you shouldn't do it. Because, it's artificial. And I'm going up to you and saying, oh, I appreciate it so much. You're so this or so that. And everybody knows I don't mean it. So why do it? But the reason you do it is because whatever you want to develop begins with practice. Okay, let's say I don't like what you did, and I say I'm not going to appreciate you because it's artificial, and I'm going to wait till appreciate you, and then I'm like 85 and I'm still waiting, right? But if I actually go through the action, then the action can help me develop appreciation. Because if you say no, you should only do it if you feel it and it's genuine, well, if that's the case, I'm going to stop chanting japa until I feel it. Stop, how am I going to practice it so I feel it, right? So if it's true with japa, or it's true with reading, or anything we're doing, why wouldn't it be true with everything? So if you understand that, then you realize it's not really artificial, it's just you're doing the right thing in spite of how you feel. You don't feel like doing, right? Like, you're married, it doesn't work out, so I feel like staying in the relationship. Okay. I don't really like this job, I don't really feel it. Okay. We're very much about feeling. And if we approach Krishna consciousness that way, it can be difficult. Because there's a lot of things we may not feel like doing, telling us we should do. So we have to develop that muscle to be able to act even if we don't feel it. If the action is necessary. If the action is beneficial. Arjuna didn't feel like fighting. He was when he saw his relatives, he was overcome with compassion, and that compassion was preventing that Kshatriya spirit. And so Krishna basically was saying, it doesn't matter, you have to do this. So however you feel, just kind of balance it. Don't let it affect you, because if you go with how you feel, you won't fight. You won't do your duty. So we can look at it that way. You have so many duties, and that's one of your duties, to not be envious or to appreciate. So, like Arjuna, I don't feel like appreciating, but I do it. I would also say, if you say, I can't appreciate, I would say, you can't find anything in that person to appreciate? And you say, no, that's a really bad sign. Right? Does that make sense?
So how do you balance that sentiment with, like you were talking about the other day, about being pretentious and acting maybe above your station? And I was thinking kind of the sentiment, like fake it until you make it.
Yeah,
trying to act like a pure devotee, but like how do you become not trying?
It's a good question. So he's asking, how do you prevent going beyond your level and acting artificially, acting beyond your qualification? Because there's certain things we have to do to purify ourselves, but we don't think, just because I appreciate you, I don't think, hey, check me out, just see, I'm so magnanimous that I appreciate everybody. But rather, if you know you need to appreciate for your own purification, and you do it in that mood, then that's real for you. But if you think, I'm appreciating because I'm so advanced, then that would be artificial. Like, I'm reading about Rasa Leela, and then I think, well, I'm reading Rasa Leela because I'm so advanced. Right? Or I'm reading Rasa Leela because I'm not advanced and I need to become advanced. So it's the same thing, approached differently. There's a saying, Prabhupada explains, one is anusara, and I think the other, what's the other one? Who knows? Anusara, following and imitating. Forget the other one. Anukara. Which one is which? Is imitation? Must be. And anukara must be following. Yeah. So I do something that Prabhupada does. I'm following in his footsteps. And Prabhupada said, but if I do it and I think I'm on the same level as Prabhupada because I'm doing it, then that's imitation. No, you say, I'm going to eat once a day and sleep 4 hours. Probably you won't be able to do it. That would be an example. Or let's say you're not brahmachari material and you say, I want to take sannyas. That would be beyond your pay level. So you can't fake it till you make it to take sannyas. Or fake it till you make it to sleep 4 hours and eat once a day. But these other things are part of Vaidhi sadhana. They're practices. So, in one sense you can say all of Krishna consciousness is fake it till you make it. I'm going to get up early, I don't want to. I'm going to chant 16 rounds, I don't want to. I'm going to go sit in class. Oh no, I hope it's not boring. So many shlokas, I don't like stories, not shlokas. Yeah. No, but I'm going to do it because I'm supposed to. So I'm following in the footsteps. If I think I don't have to chant or hear, because I'm so advanced. It's just if you misassess yourself, your qualification, then you have trouble. Is that okay? Is that more than okay? You can ask questions. I'm looking for. I wrote an article. Anything else before I read? This book is available. The book I'm reading from is available after class. What's the price?
350.
For only 350 rupees. Which is what? $5, which is 1/3 the price you're going to have to pay when I go to England. If I were you, I'd buy a lot, and then you can sell them in England. Get rich. This chapter is entitled Proudly Bowing Down to Maya. It is said that when we are ready, the Guru will come. It is also true that when we are ready, realization will come. The more ready we are, the more that realization translates into action. Whether we have a desperate need in our spiritual life or are trying to solve a difficult and troubling problem, Krishna's teachings reverberate within us in powerful ways. My hope is that this chapter will arouse in you a greater aspiration to practice humility. Perhaps even arouse an intense need for it. Sound good? Do I want to be humble? Like if I ask you, do you want to be humble? You'll all raise your hand. Right? But I won't believe all of you. Because if I say you want to be humble, the politically correct answer is yes. So you all say yes. But then ask yourself, really? Do you really want to be humble? Like, do you really want to be humble? Really, really? You really? I think deep down a lot of us do not really want to be humble. One of the great challenges of Krishna consciousness and life in general, without living it. For years I desired to better understand humility. I studied it, analyzed it, discussed it, observed it, honored it, and taught about it. And I thought I knew a thing or two about humility. Then one day, someone criticized me when I was expecting appreciation. Boom. I was devastated. Yes or yes? Have you ever had that experience? You think, okay, now I understand it completely, and then life turns you upside down, makes you realize, got a long, long way to go. Why? After studying the subject so deeply, and thus, quote, realizing that to seek honor for myself is only to taste the stool, did I still thirst for recognition like a fish on land thirsts for water? True or true? Are you thirsty for recognition like a fish on land thirsts for water? Raise your hand if you are. As I often say, those who didn't raise their hand did not understand the question. Or are afraid to admit the answer. There can only be one answer. I didn't really want humility. Here it was being handed to me on a silver platter, yet my false ego immediately rejected it. The important question was, why didn't I want it? Like all of us, I have come to the material world to imitate Krishna. However, like it or not, old habits die hard. Do you know that 25% of the people who quit their jobs leave because they are not appreciated? Did you know that? Conditioned souls have a deeply rooted need for recognition and appreciation. That's not good news, because to chant the holy name properly and constantly, we have to be completely devoid of these needs. Is it any wonder that we sometimes find chanting difficult and boring, even burdensome? So there's a Bengali song, and he's singing, when I heard about the movement of Mahaprabhu and the mercy Mahaprabhu was giving to everyone, I became excited. And I wanted to become part of it. But when I read the third verse of the Shishastakam, Trinadapi Sunichem, that I have to become more humble than a blade of grass, then I knew it was impossible. So this great enthusiasm to get Mahaprabhu's mercy, and then he finds out the price for the mercy is humility, and then he's like, forget it. Are we fighting an uphill battle? Yes, but the top of the hill can be reached. How steep a hill we must climb depends on how attached we are to making sure others think highly of us. It's all about image. Most of us portray an image to the world, a way we want others to perceive us. I am smart, I am funny, I am cool, I am kind, I'm humble, I'm honest, I'm generous, I'm spiritually advanced. What do you want others to think about you? Do you do anything to get them to think this about you? Think about that. What do you want others to think about you? And what do you do to get them to think that about you? I want others to think I'm cool. So what do? I am cool. Right? Yo, dude, what's going down? You been okay? Yeah. I'm the coolest dude around. It's my image. Yes? I want people to think I'm cool. Or I want them to think I'm intellectual, and I have a whole pocket of 25-cent words that none of you will even understand. But if I use them, you'll think, wow, Mahatma Prabhu, he's so smart. Or whatever it is. When we are attached to our image, we may even deceive ourselves into thinking this image is real. What's real is that it's painful to be false. This is really interesting. some of us are so good at pretending and developing a false image, we're so disconnected from who we are, the false image is the only person we know, and we think that's who we are. Hare Krishna. As devotees, we are tempted to get others to think we are more Krishna conscious than we really are. Prabhu, why do you go to Mangalarti? You like Mangalarti? No. If I go to Mangalarti, everyone will think I'm Krishna conscious. Or if I don't go, they're going to think I'm in Maya, so I'd better go. I just show my face, you know. I walk in the temple like 4:59, you know, pretend I was there earlier. Yeah, it happens. Does it happen? Yes? It's funny. We had little thought bubbles. Two devotees see one another at Mangalarti, and they're both thinking, oh, he's seeing me at Mangalarti. As devotees, we are tempted to get others to think we are more Krishna conscious than we really are. Yes, we may get some false satisfaction when people think we are spiritually advanced. However, the irony is that the need to be seen as advanced is what is preventing us from actually becoming advanced. Look at this crazy world we fell into. It's full of paradoxes and mazes trying to get out of the material world. It's not easy. Okay, here's some things you can do. It's in the book. You get the book, you can do this. This is an exercise. Write down all your good qualities. Write down all your bad qualities. Write down all the stupid things you've done in your life.
No.
That's a good exercise, you know, if you want to become humble. Write down the image you portray to others. Is there some disconnection between who you are and what you project yourself to be? If so, what is it? Let's call it pretending. Write down all of the things about yourself you would feel ashamed for others to know, especially those who highly respect you. Why wouldn't you want others to know these things? Who are you trying to impress, and why is it important for you to impress this person? So that's the challenge of false ego. From this exercise, it's clear that image is important to us. Some of us even portray a humble image because it makes us feel good when others think we're humble. Yes? Prabhu, so good to see you. Have you ever done that? Have you seen it done? Hare Krishna. Maybe it's genuine, I don't know. I always wonder about it. The trap we can easily fall into is that we become more concerned about looking Krishna conscious than being Krishna conscious. Should I say that again? Can you repeat it?
Care about looking Krishna conscious more than actually being Krishna conscious.
Yes. Everybody say it together. We care more about looking Krishna conscious than being Krishna conscious. That's sad, isn't it? Turn to the devotee next to you and tell them, Prabhu, that's sad. Sad situation. How then do we become humble? As long as image is important to us, humility is going to take a back seat. I know from experience that if I don't make an effort to practice humility, I will often have little desire for it, perhaps only employing a humble tactic as a last resort to get myself out of a mess. So this is probably the biggest challenge we have in becoming Krishna conscious, is to overcome false ego, false identification, the need for recognition, overcoming the need to draw attention to ourselves. Now, some people have pointed out, some people draw attention to themselves so good, and they tell everybody how bad they feel because they want to draw attention to themselves. That's interesting. Prabhu, my life is so bad, this happened, that happened, this is so bad, and they're just telling you how bad their life is, but it's just another way of drawing attention to themselves. Get real. The more we know, the more we realize how little we know. Similarly, the closer we come to Krishna, the more we realize how far we really are. Far away we really are. Yes? Do you have that experience? Yes?
I have a question. What Miranga, he shows up a lot with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
What to
It's
do
the
then?
same answer that he has. Everything you do for the pleasure of Krishna, in service. Some devotees post it on Facebook because they're very private. They don't want people to know. It's not their nature. But some have, everything they do is on Facebook. They got to do this or that, it's on Facebook. Like, they want everybody to see it. So then you might ask, well, how do you employ that nature in Krishna service? I want to be on stage, I want to perform. It's the same answer. You recognize I have that nature, and you recognize if I don't engage that nature in Krishna service, that nature could destroy me. Whatever it is. I want to be honored, I want to be famous, I want to be wealthy, I want whatever, but I can use that for Krishna. So if I have a nature, I want to be famous, and I think I'll engage that nature, and then I can use that nature to influence people. Does that make sense? So if you realize you have that nature, you have to figure out how to engage it. Or maybe you have this nature, you just love to make money. You have to have some outlet for it. Then it's fine. Yes.
So if you don't engage your nature, you're repressing it. You
Yes.
become frustrated, a
Yes.
pretender.
Yeah.
But I've heard recently someone saying that the more you become advanced, the more you don't care what your nature is. And at the stage of bhava, you do anything. You don't really, if you engage your nature or not, there's no difference for you.
He's saying that, say that again. If you engage your nature, then?
If you don't,
If you don't engage your nature, you repress it.
You repress it, you become frustrated, you're
Yeah.
a pretender.
Yeah.
According to Bhagavad Gita. But I've heard,
You're a pretender, become frustrated, you repress your nature, yeah. But on the stage of bhava, you do anything.
I was told this, but I don't know how I felt about it when I was told.
Uh-huh.
But it made sense.
nature or self-image? In Baba, you won't have a self-image.
Well, no, you still have nature. But it does. Your nature won't change. But whether you need to engage exactly that nature, you're transcendental. So, if you have Brahminical nature, naturally you want to engage it at any stage, right? And whatever that nature is, if you can use it in Krishna service, why wouldn't you use it? Why would you just?
No, you would.
But you're not
If
impelled
the-
by it.
What they were telling me is that you would, but if the circumstance doesn't require it, you wouldn't care.
Yeah. You are. It's pretty hard to not act according to your nature because it's like you're not gonna when you transcend, you're not gonna start acting like a woman. So you like to chant, you like to preach, maybe you like to organize. So when you're 65, you'll still probably be doing that because that's your nature. And so pretty much you see that. If you look at senior devotees and look at what they're doing, someone's managing, someone's preaching, someone's creating a project, it's their nature. So it's not like it's bad, it just happens. Of course, your guru says do this, then you do it. That's there also. That's the highest. Just do whatever Krishna wants, yeah. But this kind of nature we're talking about is very conditioned nature. You definitely have to deal with. There was this one devotee sent me her latest music video, and it was so dramatic. It was like this, just singing like that. And I'm looking at it thinking, yeah, she's an singer and actress. That's probably not going to change. I mean, she's older, go to Vrindavan and chant 64 rounds. Yeah, sure. I've been singing and acting my whole life. Yeah, but that happens. So she uses it, and then people know her, and then she preaches to them.
So how do you know if your nature is conditioned? You said it's a very conditioned nature, then you need to be careful.
What I have to say about all these questions? That if you look at all the devotees who joined ISKCON and what they're doing, they're all, been in ISKCON 20, 30 years. They're all doing what inspires them, like every last one of them. Somebody's worshiping the deities in Mayapur since 1972. Somebody's organizing communications. Somebody's opening 1 million temples. Somebody's just doing kirtan. That's all they do. Somebody's just painting. That's all they do. It just naturally happens. You don't even have to ask the question. You just live long enough, you'll end up there. Generally. It's kind of like asking the question, what do I like to eat? Prabhu, could you tell me what I like to eat? You don't know what you like to eat? I'm not really sure, I heard you're just supposed to eat anything, whatever they put on your plate, It's kind of like that. You don't have to think about it so much. You'll naturally, in your service, see opportunities according to your nature, and you'll gravitate towards those. I'll give you an example. This is a really nice example. So, one year during the Mayapur festival, a devotee came here, and it was his first time. Must have been 1976. 74, 75, 76. He came here and he saw the project and he saw the plan. And he said to himself, I would love to manage this place. And that is the absolute last thing I would ever say about anything. I would love to manage this. I would only say, thank God I don't have to manage this. Different nature. So I will never gravitate naturally towards managing. And if I ever develop projects, I always find some, you manage it. And I can do it, but it's not, after a while I just get bored. You might have heard one funny thing about the story. Is one of the senior devotees heard him say that, and they brought him to Prabhupada. And he said, Prabhupada, he said he would love to manage this place. It's so funny. But you could imagine, walking into Mayapur, seeing this huge place and thinking, I would love to run this place. That's a nature, right? And that nature's, that's what they'll naturally do. All these guys who, CEOs who develop these huge companies, and I look at them and I think, you're nuts. You're probably working like 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Why would you want to do that? Because it's their nature. Because they have the brains to do it. They have the vision, and they have the product, and they know they can make it big. So they're compelled to do it, right? And then you have all these other people working for them who just want a paycheck and want to come in at 9 and leave at 5 and get enough money to live, and they're happy. And they'll do that the rest of their life. And they'll never think about starting a company. Even though they know how that company runs and they could duplicate it, they'll never think about it because it's not who they are. So, in a sense, you don't have to worry so much about these questions because as you advance, your motives become more pure. And naturally, you become more clear about your nature. And so you know what Prabhupada wants, you know what your local projects need, and so you will serve in that way according to the needs. And if you look at any older devotee, advanced devotee, you see that's exactly what they do. Isn't it? Yes? Gopal Krishna Maharaj, he's opening so many temples. So someone could say, he's a sannyasi, why is he opening temples? He should be doing something else. Right? But this is nature. He can do it very easily. Raise the money, start a temple. Open 5 or 6 temples in Delhi. Could do it in his sleep. I'd be lucky to open 5 or 6 temples in 5 or 6 lifetimes. Nature. So you don't have to worry. Just do your thing for Krishna. Yeah. And by doing your thing, you're making devotees, everyone will be happy. Right? Let's say a devotee likes to cook and they start a restaurant. Nobody questions that, right? Prabhu, are you really surrendered? Is that really what you're supposed to do, is open a restaurant? Are you sure that you're not just running away from really what your guru wants you? No one will say that. They'll go, fantastic, open a restaurant, great. Isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Скажите, пожалуйста, с какого момента деятельность, которой мы занимаемся, она становится бхакти?
From which point activity what we are doing became bhakti?
The moment that you do it for Krishna's pleasure, you don't think you're the enjoyer, that's bhakti. And if you're doing it to get something from it, then it's bhakti that's mixed with some material desire. That's it. If you see everyone and everything is meant for Krishna's pleasure, that's bhakti. And if you see anything is meant for your pleasure, that's not bhakti. Simple, right? What's that example Prabhupada gives? He said, if a young boy sees a beautiful flower, he thinks, I will pick this and give it to my girlfriend. And if a devotee sees a beautiful flower, he will think, I will pick this and give it to Krishna. There you go. That's the difference. Have you ever been driving somewhere and you see this amazing house? Beautiful house, beautiful property, and you think, that would make a beautiful temple. You ever thought like that? You ever seen something like, perfect, this is a perfect house for a temple? That's bhakti. Or you see a beautiful house like that and you think, I would love to live in that house. Okay, we need somewhere to live, but that house is probably bigger than you need. See the difference. Always thinking how to please Krishna. And then for myself, I take what's necessary to, as Prabhupada said, to keep body and soul together. To live comfortably, what I need, I take for myself, but everything else for Krishna. Is that okay? Yeah, simple. Yes?
На утренней прогулке вы несколько моментов отметили. Например, что когда мы повторяем джапу, то если у нас нет настроения разлуки, то что-то не так в нашей джапе. И, например, когда даршан мы получаем, то это не мы смотрим на божеств, а божества смотрят на нас, наслаждаются нами. И я понимаю, что мое видение далеко от этого. И является ли это то, что я делаю, повторяю джапу и хожу на даршан, какой-то начальный бхакти?
When you see the deity, actually the deity is seeing you. You don't go to enjoy the deity enjoys seeing you. Because Krishna is the enjoyer. So we're the enjoyed, he's the enjoyer. This is like we take prasadam, but he takes it first, because he's the enjoyer. And so we honor the prasadam. And if the prasadam tastes good, we're happy because we know this was offered to Krishna. Have you ever eaten Mahaprasadam and it tastes bad and you get agitated? It's like they're offering this to Krishna? This is horrible. Because you're not in the position of enjoyer. Or you eat this nice prasadam and say, this is so nice, the deities are being... You're happy because the deities got nice prasadam. So you see the deity, but actually you're not there to see them, they're there to see you. Of course you see them, obviously, but the mood is, the deities will see me. So yes, right from the beginning, that we should understand. As far as chanting, feeling separation, Prabhupada was saying that's when you're actually chanting. That's like how you know. How were your rounds today on a scale of 1 to 10? Well, if it was a 10, you were feeling separation. And if you weren't feeling separation, it's not a 10. So it's just a... Prabhupada gave that as a gauge. Prabhupada gave that as a standard of good japa. You're feeling separation from Krishna. Yes?
So Maharaj, on that point about japa and separation, what if you're not on that platform to feel separation, but you stop chanting and you're going about your business, doing activities, the mantra is still in your mind?
That's fine, as long as you don't count them as your rounds. What did Prabhupada say? 16 on the beads, unlimited off the beads? Can I finish? We have time. The more we know, the more we realize how little we know. The closer we come to Krishna, the more we realize how far we really are. The more we realize how far we are from Krishna, the more we realize what's separating us from Krishna. The more we realize what is separating us from Krishna, the more we can acknowledge and accept our faults. awareness, what's separating us. The more we are aware of our own faults, the more we can be real. And the more we can get real, the more we can be humble and wise. After all, humility means acknowledging what's real. This is from a Buddhist book called the Dhammapada. Dhammapada. The fool who knows that he is a fool is for that very reason a wise man. The fool who thinks he is wise is called a fool indeed. So the question is, do we want to be real? How would you feel if somebody pointed out a fault, a weakness, or an anomaly of yours in an area which you regarded yourself as competent or even praiseworthy? How would you feel if that criticism came from someone you thought respected you, or worse, from someone you needed to respect you? How would you feel? Not good, right? Well, maybe you feel good. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, those who point out my faults are my real friends. You know this story? There was a man who was criticizing him, and then when he died, his disciples reported to him that the man died, and they thought he was going to be happy, and he was unhappy. He said, oh, my best friend has died. Hare Krishna. Who's your best friend? That person over there. They always criticize me. They point out my faults. Those who point out my faults are my real friends. It is by acknowledging and confronting those faults that we advance. The more we confront our faults, the closer we come to Krishna. So this is from Manu Samhita. A brahmana should ever shrink from honor as from poison, and should always be desirous of disrespect as if of ambrosia. You can all say, wow, that's heavy. Wow, that's heavy. I'll read it again. Some of you should faint when you hear this. It's so heavy. A Brahmin should ever shrink from honor as from poison. In other words, you see honor like poison. And should always be desirous of disrespect as if ambrosia. Desirous, it's nectar, because it makes me humble. Wow, that's amazing. Isn't it? That's actually, that couldn't be any further from material consciousness than I can think of. That's just amazing. To be Krishna conscious means to perceive disrespect as if it were ambrosia. When was the last time you went out looking for disrespect as if it were nectar? I'm looking forward to the day when I actually experience disrespect as ambrosia. As ambrosial. I'm sure it will be one of the greatest days of my life. It's only 2 more paragraphs. We have a choice. We can maintain a false face to the world, doing our best to look and act in ways to get others' appreciation, and thus remain a slave in Maya's hands. Or we can acknowledge how foolish we are to run after crumbs of false honor and thus gain shelter at Krishna's feet. I don't know about you, but at the end of the day, I'd rather be humbly sitting at Krishna's lotus feet than proudly bowing down to Maya. Hare Krishna. So that's a chapter from my book, Living the Wisdom of Bhakti, which will be available today for only
350.
350 rupees.
400 in Russian with hardcover.
400 for the hardcover in Russian. On this table at 7 o'clock. Yes.
Who wrote it? But is that the quote that you're reading?
That was from Manu Samhita. Yes.
What if we perceive disrespect as contempt?
What if we perceive disrespect as contempt? Well, maybe you're right. Not even you perceive it. Well, let's say it is. Now we have to talk about what's real, because we just read something that's like really high, right? Isn't it? That was pretty high. Criticism as ambrosia. We're probably pretty far from that, right? So, I'm glad you asked this question, because now we have to put this into context of where we're at, what's real for us. Because based on this, when I get married, I'm going to find someone who is completely incompatible, who will criticize me all the time. And that way I'll become perfectly humble. No. Obviously, no, we wouldn't do that. So we have self-respect, so we don't allow people to abuse us. And that can be very unhealthy, to be living with someone who's always putting you down. You would have to be very advanced to appreciate that. Right? Like, oh, Krishna's mercy, just what I need. Every day I get put down. The problem is, if we're not on that level, that putting down can destroy our self-esteem. I've seen that. Someone who's always put down, they're going to start believing it after a while. So we have to protect ourselves. So when we're listening to the philosophy and it's teaching us about all these high things that we may not be able to achieve, then we have to practically understand what's the next step for us, and also not allow ourselves to be in a position where we would be harmed. Yes.
Question about humility. According to Bhagavad Gita, I think 13 chapters, 8 to 12.
Yeah.
First is Amanitvam.
Yes.
So humility is the first quality of knowledge.
Yes.
So
Requirement, the qualification to get knowledge.
Yeah, qualification to get knowledge. So itself, humility means, unless you are not, you mention real, means what is real, right? So we are not in spiritual platform, we cannot be in that position.
What's real? What real meaning? Our disqualification. Be real about our disqualifications. Because when you're real about your disqualification, then you can receive knowledge. That's why it's the first item necessary for knowledge.
And I need to say, to be humble itself, it means one should be in the level of spiritual consciousness. Without that,
It means, no, well, there's another way of looking at it. If you accept that you're a servant of Krishna, that's humility. If you follow your spiritual master, if you follow Prabhupada, that's humility. Maybe not the highest level, but it's definitely an action of humility. Like, for example, I know theoretically I'm not the body. And then I'll say, but I don't realize it. But Prabhupada would say, no, you do, because you're engaging in devotional service. If you didn't realize you're not the body, you would engage in devotional service. So there's different ways to define the same thing. So one time the devotees said, Prabhupada, if we go out on book distribution, will we become self-realized? And Prabhupada said, the fact that you're going out on book distribution every day means you are self-realized. Like you realize I'm servant of Krishna. So when you look at it in one context, we have a lot of humility. Just because I'm following Krishna's instructions and Prabhupada's instructions, that's partially the definition of humility. At the same time, I may want to be honored. I may be resistant to look at my faults. So I have further work to do in that area. It's a broad department. So we're talking about the more difficult aspects. But I don't think, we definitely don't want to say that devotees are not humble, because they're humbling themselves before Guru and Krishna. So definitely there's humility. What Srila Bhaktisiddhanta taught was that we should be very much focused on purifying ourselves, finding out what is wrong with us and how to correct ourselves, rather than focusing on the defects of others and criticizing them. So that was, a very simple definition of practical humility. Its actual words are, do not pry into the defects of others, but introspect, find faults in yourself. No one can harm you unless you allow them. And the way he taught that is that action is necessary. Because if I'm prying into the defects of others, those defects will infiltrate, and I'll be affected by them. And my consciousness is now being taken away from Krishna. But if I pry into my own defects, then I can improve myself. So that's another stage of humility. And then as Prabhupada said in the purport to that verse, not wanting the satisfaction of being honored by others. So that's a big thing. The satisfaction of getting patted on the back. It's a very strong desire. So there's different levels. Taking criticism as mercy, it's another level. Admitting I'm wrong, another level. It's a long road to humility. But you can't get love of Krishna without humility. So there's no way around it. And I think that's important for us to realize. Because we may be resistant in some way, or we may find it difficult to be humble, but we should know very clearly that the path to bhakti is paved with humility. You can't get prema without humility. So whether you're ready to be humble today or tomorrow, you're going to have to do it at some point. So might as well do it now. Sooner the better. Yeah. Yes?
You said we need to be real to be humble, but if I don't have a clear perception of reality, how can I find the limit between humility and self-deception?
You can't.
So
But it's the false ego that is, it's usually the false ego that's impeding you from seeing the fault that maybe you're reluctant to see. We had talked about that yesterday. If you think of yourself in a certain way, it's very difficult to see yourself any differently, even though in fact you may be different. You may not have the qualities that you think you have. You may have the faults you think you don't have. But the false ego will defend your image and won't allow you to see that, because if it did, your image would be blown, then you'd be nobody to yourself. So as you advance in Krishna consciousness, that becomes less of a problem. And I'm glad you brought this up, because you might hear this class and think, wow, this is like so difficult. You know, I could give a class on habits and you'd think the same thing. Oh, it's so hard to overcome habits and conditioning. But the thing is, when a devotee is sincere, Krishna starts to reveal all these things. So say, Krishna, please reveal where I need to work. Please reveal what's wrong. Please reveal how I can be better. And so because we're devotees and Krishna wants to help us become purified, He'll reveal that if we want it. And so ultimately, you could say if He's not revealing it, it must be that you don't want it or you're not praying for it enough. Because He's in the heart, so He can reveal. You know, we say, you know, we have so many blind spots, we're not objective about ourselves. Okay, so maybe I can't be so objective about myself, but I'm praying to Krishna, please reveal more about what I really am and what I'm really not. And then friend may come and say, you know, I really think you shouldn't be doing this because it doesn't look right. And so he revealed it to a friend. Or you read something, revealed it in Prabhupada's books. But you want to get back to Godhead, you're going to have to walk on the staircase of humility. You can play around with pride for a while, but at a certain point, Krishna's going to, okay, I've given you enough time. You know, He's not going to let you play around forever. At least that's what I've seen. You're not happy?
I'm just thinking about something.
Yeah.
Like,
Sometimes I give these classes and I think, oh my God, everyone's going to go home so depressed now. They're going home thinking, I'll never be humble and I'll never go back to God. And I was having such a good time today and I came to this class and oh my God, so depressed. Yes?
how can we keep ourselves motivated? Self-motivation. We cannot expect from others.
Uh-huh.
Like if we are expecting from others, we're waiting for praise, right? We cannot expect that. How can you keep going?
Motivated for what? Just in general or to be humble?
Do this service anyway.
Yeah. Associate with motivated people. Just by being with them, you'll be inspired. Yeah. Maybe one of the biggest problems most devotees have is they're not motivated because they're not reading Prabhupada's books, because all the motivation is in the book, because Prabhupada will convince you why not to be motivated for material life. And lots of problems develop when we don't read his books, because we're you know, it's like we're trying out for the Olympics, but you know, we're practicing with the high school students, sports team. You know, it's not going to work. You know, you have to practice with the other people who are going to be going for the Olympics. And so Prabhupada's books are like that level. That's what you need to get you back to Godhead. And if you avoid them, it's going to be hard, because all the inspiration is there. All the purpose, why you should do this. Because inspiration just comes from understanding why. And if you don't have whys, there's no inspiration. Like, I'm overweight, you know, I should lose weight, yeah, but what's the big deal? You know, who cares? Then you go to the doctor and he says, you're overweight, you're going to have a heart attack. Whoa, big inspiration. We see you out there the next day, you're running around, you know, Mayapur, you know, eating salads, you know. It's like, what got over you? Oh, the doctor said I'm going to have a heart attack if I don't do this. That's a big motivation. So Prabhupada's books are a little bit like that. Like, you're going to go here if you don't do this. So we definitely need that. And as I said, Advanced Devotee Association is very powerful. You want to know insider secret? The insider secret is anything you feel you're lacking in, find a devotee that you feel is not lacking in that, and hang out with them. And hang out with them could be just like sit next to them during japa. You know, you don't even have to talk to them. Sit next to them during class, or stand next to them at arti. You don't even know what you're doing. You know? But just by being next to someone who's not struggling with what you're struggling with, you will feel release from that problem. because their consciousness is filtering down into your consciousness and how they're thinking. Just by looking at their face, you can see they don't have that problem. Yes?
About association and associating with people who inspire you in certain areas, how do you do that without, so discriminate, without judging or thinking, well, that person actually doesn't inspire me for anything? Because surely there must be something in everyone, but then how do you protect us?
Well, I would go back to the eating example. There's nothing wrong with this preparation, I just don't like it. So, this is a nice devotee, but my service is different, or my thinking is different, so I'm not so inspired by them, but I'm sure many people are inspired by them. And it's not offensive, it's just a fact. You know, like someone leads a kirtan, and you think like that's the best kirtan you ever heard, and Gopinath walks out and he thinks that was the worst kirtan I ever heard. Right? You've seen that? So, different natures. So, Prabhupada said, birds of a feather flock together. You need to associate, but you don't need a lot. So find the association that inspires you specifically. Kind of like getting married. You have to find the person that... It's not like you're offending all the men in the world if you don't think they're all qualified to be your husband. You have to make that discrimination. This one is compatible. The other ones, they're fine for other people. Something like that. If you maintain respect, okay, this person doesn't inspire me, but I respect them. I can see they're sincere. Is that okay? Yes.
Is it living example of someone the best way to be by observing, making association with the person, suppose who is humble, and by, how to say, as you mentioned, being nearby?
Yes. If you find a devotee you feel is more humble than you, definitely it'll have a very positive effect on for you to associate with them. No question. You know why? Because I don't know if you have this experience, but if you're with a very humble devotee, then anything you do that in any way exhibits just a little pride, it seems to just stand out because that person is, they're not on that level. So it kind of forces you to to see yourself and see your pride because they don't do that. You had that experience before? Yeah. Yes.
How can you practice humility without the pride fitting into this ego? It's very difficult.
Yeah. Well, I would say if the pride creeps in, how to practice humility without pride creeping in. If the pride creeps in, it's a sign that our desire for being humble is not mature. It needs to be more mature. Just read about it, study it. I have a whole workshop on it. It must be online somewhere. It just, when you want to develop something, it's online. When you want to develop something, you want to read about it. Like I was saying something to you, you want to read about why it's important. Like if I tell you, you should eat salads and you should walk every day for an hour and drink 2 liters of water every day. You'll say, Okay, it sounds good. And then you come back tomorrow and say, I say, did you do it? And you said, no. I said, why? And you said, because I don't know why I should do it. Then I explain why you should do it. And now you know why, and now you're motivated. So the more we learn about humility, what it is, its position in bhakti, its importance in bhakti, how it's a manifestation of bhakti, the detriments of pride, false ego, how it's destructive, then the desire develops. Because naturally, we're geared towards seeking honor, even honor, being honored as humble. Wanting to be honored as humble is like you're winning the race, you get right to the rope and you stop and let someone else go. It's like, it's the supreme paradox. But ultimately, to overcome that desire is going to require spiritual advancement. Or as Burijan Prabhu said, also it's going to require getting old and getting beaten down by the material world to make you realize that you're quite small. And doing some more stupid things. If you ever have a problem with humility, just think of all the stupid things you've done in your life. Another interesting thing to be aware of is if we're complaining a lot. Complaining is an aspect of pride. So we should be aware of complaining. Negative. So many people in the temple. Oh, the class went so long. You know, we're always complaining. So cold in the morning, I don't want to go out. Yes? Raise your hand if you complain a lot. Okay. All of those with your hand up, sit next to the people without the hand up. Get some good association. So, we need to understand the whole gamut of what it means, what false ego means. All the aspects of pride, the intolerance, the complaining. How humility means to honor, glorify others, be happy doing that, all these things. And why it's necessary, and what's the result of it. Because we act on what we feel. So if I don't feel like being humble, forget it. I'm not going to be. I'm always going to end up in my default. So we want to come to the point where we actually want to, as an emotion. Like, I like it. I'm happy when I'm not recognized. I like to be nobody. It feels good. That's what I want. That's what we have to come to. Because you realize that most of us, unless we're really strong, we don't act on what we know, we act on what we feel. So, as we get knowledge, when that knowledge transforms into a desire to be a certain way, that's when it happens. I want to be like Thakur. I feel that in my heart. When I see Thakur Heart, and when I see his humility, I want to be like that. That's, when I was a kid, I wanted to be like this baseball player. But now I want to be like Thakur. I feel it as an emotion. Strong emotion. That's what we want to develop. So through reading, through study, through association, that feeling develops. Because until that feeling develops, it's going to be really difficult. Because we act on feeling. Isn't it? So by studying it, you start to change your perception. Your perception changes, and then your feelings change as your perception changes. And then someday, your worst critic becomes your best friend. This is such an important point. If you're struggling developing something, it's probably because you really don't feel it. You really don't want it. It's not something that you feel on a gut level in your heart that I really want this. Right? It could be anything. Rising early in the morning, chanting good rounds, reading Prabhupada's books, whatever it is. Just on an emotional level, I don't feel anything. So we pray for that feeling. And we engage in devotional service. And whatever it is we want to feel, we want to learn more about why that's important. I saw this one little excerpt from a seminar, and they found this guy and they said, "What's your favorite food?" And he described a certain pizza. So they went and got the pizza. When they got the pizza, they brought him up on stage, and the facilitator said, "I'm going to get you to hate pizza. You'll never eat pizza again." And he had him look at that pizza in ways that when he saw that pizza, he just saw fat on his body. He saw clogged arteries and heart attacks and strokes. He saw just like this pizza was destroying him. And so after he got in that state, then the facilitator said, "What do you feel now when you look at that pizza?" And he said, "I feel nauseous. I feel sick looking at it." Perceptional change changes how you feel. So we want perceptional changes. False ego, pride, it's like stool, it's like urine, or it's like Raghunath Das Goswami says, like donkey urine. I want to see it like donkey urine. And I want to see humility like nectar, like gold. And if you have that on an emotional level, then you're good. It's all the problem solved. And until then, it's going to be a problem. So that's what we're trying to get to. I want to get up in the morning. Like, I look forward to it. I have all these beautiful visions of early morning. It's like, when my alarm goes off, it's like, wow, I don't have to sleep anymore. It's early morning. Fantastic. But the problem is, if we don't have that, then we have other visions, which then create other experiences. Oh, it's so early. Why do I have to get up? And everything that you do, spontaneously, you have some positive emotion towards. And everything that's difficult to do, you have negative emotion towards. Isn't it? Think about something you're procrastinating on doing for like the last 10 years. You still haven't done it, right? There's all negative around it. If you could create positive emotions around that, you would do it tomorrow. Or you'd do it tonight. Isn't it? Yes? Yes, you agree? It's true. So we want to create positive emotions around the things that we want to achieve. And a lot of us have created negative emotions around the things we want to achieve. What could be worse than that? It's like self-defeating, isn't it? I want to get up early in the morning, but I can't because it's so early and I'm not a morning person. You've just totally defeated yourself. It's like, now it's impossible to get up early. Right? Because you've just done everything to destroy any positive association with early morning that you could possibly have. What could I do if I got up early in the morning? Oh, I could read, I could chant, I could exercise, I'd have so much more time. Now it's getting more positive. I always wanted to write this book, and if I just write from 4 to 5 every morning, I could write it, and 1 year it'll be finished. Now you have all these positives. All of a sudden, you're up every morning. Everyone's like amazed. How did you do that? Because I stopped being negative about the thing I want to do. I don't really want to be humble. I don't think I could be. I got this big false ego. I really like to be honored. I really like, you're going on and on convincing yourself that humility is like light years away and really painful. Isn't it? Do you ever do that? Well, if you wonder why you haven't achieved something, this could be one of the reasons. Does it make sense? Yes? Okay, maybe I should stop now. Save more for tomorrow. It's getting late. Is that okay? Okay, so Gopinath's going to put the books, if you want to get any books. You put them on the table. And Hare Krishna to all of you. And tomorrow, same time, Jay? Or later? Or not at all?
We're not sure. Maybe Jayapataka Swami is receiving us, so we're not sure. Mataji arranged for it.
You don't know what time? Yeah, we'll do the class, and if you come,
It could be tomorrow or the day after.
we'll just do it and see what happens. Or we'll see what happens or it doesn't happen. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari.